it's time to sit back and relax with your favorite drink. And listen. In the first part of this story, our protagonist found himself trapped in a cell in prison while the world collapsed around him. Would he escape? Would he make it out alive or undead? In this episode, we see what happens once he leaves the prison. Prison of the Undead II, Prisoner of the Road, by Jrubas. July 4th, 2024. Cut my wrist this morning. But Nightwolf found me before I could bleed out and let Butch patch me up. Butch, this short, pudgy fuck with straggly grey hair and swastika tattoos on his dirty biceps, was a medic in the army. And he is good, I'll say that. When he was finished, Nightwolf took me into the woods, ripped my shirt off, and whipped me with his belt. Try some shit like that again, you're gonna wish you were never born, got me. Yeah, I muttered. I was on my hands and knees, blood gushing down my back and sweat coursing down my face, dripping from the tip of my nose. Good. Now get up. I got woozily to my feet and walked back to camp, Nightwolf behind me, so close I could smell the Captain Morgan on his breath. The night before, we'd set up camp in a field off Route 29. 8 motorcycles, a black van, and an olive drab Jeep with a Virginia National Guard stenciled across the doors, dotting the grassy plain. A couple of the guys had slapped together tents with tarp and rope. They sat by fire pits laughing and drinking beer. A few glanced in my direction, but quickly looked away. At Butch's tent, Nightwolf called, "Patch the kid up again, will you?" Butch opened the flap, looked from me to Nightwolf, and then motioned me in. Sat in a folding chair while the old medic dressed my wounds. The alcohol started. "I'm being as careful as I can," Butch said. "Lee did a number on you this time." I didn't reply. Butch and Nightwolf were the only ones I talked to, and even that only happened occasionally. Butch sighed. "Look, I don't like what he's doing either. It ain't right. He's a leader. We all gotta do what he says. Kept us alive this long. That means something. Just do what he tells you. Don't make it harder on yourself." A bit down on the sides of my cheeks. I wanted to cry, to rage, to yell, but I blinked back tears instead. I'd been with the bikers since June 28. When the dead began to walk, I was in prison, serving a life sentence for murder. Within a month, the guards had abandoned us, and we began starving to death. Billy Sutherland was the first to die. He snapped and cut his wrists. Jimmy died on the 25th. By the 27th, I was so weak from hunger that I couldn't get off the floor. So when the cell block doors clanged open and the sound of voices filled the pod, I thought I was dreaming. No, scratch that. Fevered and disoriented, I thought I'd died, and all the people I'd hated in life, dead now for sure, had come to take me to hell, where we would spend eternity crammed into a phone booth together. "Holy shit, boys," one of the voices said, echoing. "We got a live one." Lying on my back, my eyes closed. If they were here for me, I figured I'd face them like a man. Using the last bit of my energy, I rolled onto my stomach. I'd been lying in a bar of sunshine and realized then that my face had burned. Well, whatever. Worse where that came from, right? At snake level, all I could see were 5 sets of feet. Jackboots, jeans. One of them had spurs like a cowboy. Giddy up. "Help me." They were at Quincy Jennings' cell. He was diagonal from me. In his own cell, Billy pounded on the bars, groaning and reaching. "What's that?" the voice asked. "Couldn't hear you. What you want from me?" Swallowing, I pushed myself up to my knees. A group of men in leather jackets and dirty black shirts clustered around Quincy's cell. They had beards, long hair, tattoos. Bikers. Help, Quincy repeated. The man who had spoken looked at his buddies, a hateful grin on his face. He was tall, muscular, and wore his shaggy brown hair in a mullet. It reminded me of Dog the Bounty Hunter, only uglier. You want help? Big, strong, independent black man like you, and you want help? Help. I was on my knees, holding onto the bars now. Leave him alone, you dick, I coughed. The leader turned and looked at me. Another one. He looked me up and down, his gunmetal grey eyes flat and empty. In my delirious state, I knew that he had no soul. He wasn't a man at all. God, he was Satan, the rough beast whose time had come round at last. I really was dead, and this was hell. Johnny, get him out of here, will you? He went on staring at me, grinning an evil grin full of napalm and crying children. A man with a white beard and a black t-shirt stretched tightly over his gut waddled over, pulled something out of his pocket and started fiddling with the lock. Oh, Billy was going nuts now, face pressed to the bars, arms thrust through. Spike, take care of that frickin' deadhead. Spike, who looked Native American, nodded, pulled a knife from his belt and stabbed Billy through the head. Billy sank down, dead. Something like horror rose in me. He was already dead, sure, and in life he was a neo-Nazi wannabe. But, I don't know, being in this situation together, it's like we'd bonded. You bastards, I muttered. The door popped open then, and I spilled out onto the floor, hitting my face on the concrete. Help. I got your help hanging, frogger. A gunshot rang out, deafening in the confined space. Oh, Quincy. I must have passed out then, because the next thing I remember is being carried through the kitchen and then through a door onto a loading dock. The sunlight was blinding, and I hissed. Shut up, pretty boy, the leader said. He carried me to a van and shoved me through a sliding door. Inside, a man with an eye patch sat against the wall, an AK-47 in his lap. Blinking the sunlight out of my eyes, I saw that the cargo space was crammed with guns. Guns, boxes of ammunition, and piles of what looked like pipe bombs. Who the hell were these guys? I remember the gunshot then. Quincy. Dead. A rage filled me. I lunged for the guy with the AK. It wasn't really a lunge, more of an I'm lying down, so let me reach out and grab your ankle kind of thing. The guy kicked my hand away and shot me a dirty look. Fuck's wrong with you? You assholes. I think he hit me with the stock of the gun. Blackness enveloped me, and the next thing I knew, my head was in another man's lap, and he was pressing a canteen to my lips. You need a drink, he said. I was too punch-drunk to worry about drinking, but he forced me. I coughed, spat, and choked. We stopping soon? The man asked. Yeah, just chill. 15 minutes later, the van came to a stop. The man laid my head on the ground and got out. Through the door, I could see a town park. Chain-link fence, baseball diamond, houses along a distant street. Suddenly I was yanked out of the van and dropped on the ground. 4 men loomed over me. The leader was one of them. He wore tight jeans, a belt with a Confederate flag belt buckle, and a denim jacket over a black shirt. A Colt revolver was jammed into his waistband. You think we're assholes, the leader said. I glared up at him. You killed Quincy. Sounds like you offed his boyfriend, Nightwolf, the man said. Nightwolf rolled his eyes. He was as good as dead anyway. Did him a favor. Luckily, you were well off, so here you are. Hey, you hungry? Fuck you. He kicked me in the chest then. The toe of his boot was pointed, steely, and it hurt like a bitch. Jeez, you're gonna kill him, the man who'd made me drink said. He's fine, Butch, Nightwolf said contemptuously. Scrape him up and give him something to eat. Then the bastard strode off, and Butch helped me to a park bench and forced a bag of Lays into my hands. I ate 4 of them, almost puked. They were salty and greasy. You okay? I can't eat any more, I said. That's all right, Butch said in a kind tone. He took the bag and handed me the canteen. I took a long drink. My stomach gurgled. Sitting there, I got my first good look at the gang. Bikes were lined up behind the van. The Jeep was in the rear. A good 2 dozen guys stood around drinking beer and talking. Looked like a frickin' barbecue. What's your name, kid? Butch asked. Benny, I said. I'm Butch. How long since you ate, Benny? I tried to remember. Don't know. 2 weeks, 3? That long, huh? I nodded. Yeah, they left us in early June. Butch shook his head. That's a shame, ain't it? Just left you all to die. He gave a sad head shake. Took another drink of water. So, how are things out here? The last time I'd seen the news, it looked like those things were everywhere. A few of them had made it to the front gate of the prison at some point around June the 15th. Butch shook his head again. Dad, he said. No cops, no government, nothing. It's all gone. It took me a long time to process what he was saying. Gone. Everything, just like that. Nightwolf came over then. You good? He asked me. My chest still ached from his stupid boots, but I nodded. Great. I want to get back on the road soon. If we don't come across any more smash-ups, we can be back in West Virginia by dusk. Well, that didn't happen. 10 miles from the park, we did come to a smash-up. A dozen cars blocked the road, many of them smashed, burned out, or flipped over. I craned my neck to see past the bucket seats. Damn it, Nightwolf said. He was behind the wheel. Right, detour time. Dusk found us in Rockingham County. Green rolling mountains defined the horizon on all sides of us. We made camp on a farm off the highway. The place belonged to the Mennonites before. They found a buggy with reflective taillights in the barn. A couple of the guys built a bonfire, and everyone got drunk and danced around it like they were frickin' pagans. Nightwolf had posted guards, so we were protected from the dead at least. All through this, Nightwolf sat stoically on a log, keeping me close at hand. He drank one beer after another. When he was done with a can, he chucked it into the fire and cracked open another. At one point, one of the guys slipped a Leonard Skinner tape into the van's tape deck. Nightwolf made Butch go and take it out. Hey, we don't need them fucks hearing us, he said boozily. When the party had wound down, Nightwolf took me over to the van. You're staying in here with me, he said. I don't want to talk about what he did to me. But I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. Part 2. We mustered out and made 30 miles before dusk. Going was slow because a lot of the roads in Mineral County had been washed out at some point after the rising had started. Butch said they'd encountered a line of bad storms in Maryland, and maybe the same ones came through here too. Spent the majority of the trip gazing out of the window, thinking of running away. Well, I wouldn't make it, of course. Since I'd been with them, I'd seen 3 guys try to bug out, wind up being lynched. Don't think I care if they kill me or not, though. Oh, death would be better than this. But they wouldn't kill me, and that was the problem. Nightwolf would do something worse. The morning after he'd had his way with me, Nightwolf took me aside and told me how it was. Nothing in life is free, Benny boy. Here you got food, protection, medicine. You gotta pay. You ain't a doctor like Butch, are you? No. You weren't in the military like Andy and One Eye, were you? Again, I shook my head. Nightwolf leaned in until his nose was touching mine. His breath was hot, rank, and smelled like beer. You don't got the balls like I do you? My face flushed with impotent rage, and I turned away. He grabbed my chin and forced me to look at him. Do you? He asked again. No, I admitted, and the words were sour in my mouth. Then, the way you're gonna pay, you're my bitch. He leaned forward and spat out those last 3 words. Got some wash for you, he said, and got up. An hour later, I was kneeling by a creek and rubbing Nightwolf's crusty underwear on a stone while the Native American guy, Chief Ass Kick they called him, watched over me. When that was done, Nightwolf made me polish his boots. He sat there while I tried to scuff out a dozen years' worth of scratches, drinking beer and pointing out all the spots I'd missed. Whenever one of the other guys passed by, they'd comment on what a good little bitch I was. Looks like you found yourself a keeper. And that's marriage material right there. Well, it was freaking humiliating. For an hour and a half, he let me go and get his undies, which I'd hung up to dry. When I brought them to him, he got mad because I hadn't got all the skid marks out. What the fuck is this? It's the best I could do. Your best ain't good enough. I got mad then. Do I look like frickin' Maytag? Try wiping your ass next time. With that, he punched me. Quick, hard jab to the jaw. I went down and he stood over me. Oh, you got a smart mouth, boy. I just glared up at him. I'll break you, though. Oh, yes, I will. Well, it's late now. I'm tired. Nightwolf is snoring. If I had a knife, I'd cut his throat right now. I'd try bashing his head in, but if I don't kill him, he'll really make it hurt next time. July 5th, 2024. The day started bright and hot. We spent the night on a hillside overlooking a small town in a valley. There was plenty of shade, but that didn't matter. Might as well have been in the Mojave. I cooked Nightwolf's breakfast while gazing down into the little village. It looked like the kind of place Norman Rockwell used to paint. Narrow streets lined with shops and wavering trees. A red brick schoolhouse. A white church steeple rising in the summer haze. While I was wool gathering, the bacon burned and I cussed. Sure enough, Nightwolf was pissed. He likes his bacon limp. One swift punch to the guts later, I got it right and he left me alone. I ate the burned bacon myself. It tasted like charcoal, but it was food. After breakfast, we packed up, or rather I packed up, with a little help from Butch, and we hit the road. We stopped in the little town and the guys raided a couple of shops along Main Street. In the hardware store, Jake Gonzalez got bit on the arm by a deadhead. The thing was right behind the counter and popped up as he was passing by. I was in the van with Nightfall when he, Butch, and Rob Heaton came out, Jake bleeding and Butch shouting. Oh, fucking clown, Nightwolf sighed. See that? That's why you pay attention. The other guys came out from wherever they were to see what was going on. Butch laid Jake out on the sidewalk and chopped the infected arm off with a machete. Well, I'd be lying if I said I didn't take pleasure in that. While Butch was tying off the stump, Nightwolf leaned over the passenger seat and rolled down the window. 5 minutes and I'm gone, whether you assholes are ready or not. Of course, Butch wanted to keep Jake close, so that meant he got to ride with us. He blubbered for 10 miles before Nightwolf snapped on him and told him to shut the fuck up. After that, he fell asleep. Sweat shone on his face. "Oh, he doesn't look too good," Butch said. "Oh, that's his problem," Nightwolf replied. "Don't think I caught it in time." "Oh well." From the town where Jake got his bite, we headed northeast, eventually crossing into Maryland at the town of Kaiser. "Yeah, there's a hospital up ahead," Butch said, proving he could read. "Potomac Valley Hospital," the sign said. "We should stop in it." Fuck him," Nightwolf said. "Told you assholes a million frickin' times to watch what you're doing. If you're reckless and get bit, that's on you." He pushed a tape into the deck then, and great white filled the van. Once bitten, twice shy. I don't know if Nightwolf selected it on purpose, but it was kind of funny. You know, bitten. I liked it. Fuck Jake. From Kaiser, we followed a narrow country road that matched the Potomac River bend for bend. Butch kept pressing his hand on Jake's forehead. "Man, he's burning up." We stopped 10 miles northwest of Cumberland at a state park overlooking a wide lake. Within 5 minutes, the rec area looked like a biker festival. Grills, fire pits, guys sitting on picnic tables, guys pissing in the forest. I fixed Nightwolf a plate and brought it to him. Not even a thank you. While they ate, I sat on the picnic table and looked out over the water. Wondered if I could make it to the water's edge before they could get me. If I hit the water, maybe they wouldn't come after me. And if they did, well, what's the worst that could happen? I drowned. I didn't try, though. I was too scared of what Nightwolf would do if he did get me. After he was done eating, the prick came over and sat next to me. "You know, you still haven't thanked me." I looked at him. He was squinting against the sun, his face hard. "For what?" "For saving your life." I opened my mouth to say something smart, but I didn't feel like getting hit, so I said thank you. "How about you show me your gratitude?" "Show you?" "Come on." He led me into the woods. When we were far enough in that nobody could see us, he told me to get down on my knees. I knew what was coming, but what could I do? When he was done, I spit him out onto the forest floor while he zipped up his pants, chuckling. God, I've never hated anyone so much in my life. July 6th, 2024. Jake died late last night. We were camped near the interstate, where we'd been since yesterday afternoon when another nasty storm had blown in. Near the end, he was consumed with fever and was delusional, talking out of his head like a fucking lunatic. Nightwolf let him stay in the van, but left himself, so of course I didn't get any sleep. Just before dawn, he rattled out his last breath and went still. Butch stabbed him in the head and pulled the blanket over his face. "Hey, does it always work that quick?" I asked. "The infection?" "Most times," the old medic said. "Saw a guy last 3 days before. Saw another last 3 hours. Depends on the person, I guess." Later, after sunrise, I helped Butch carry Jake into the woods and bury him. By the time we got back to the camp, dirty and covered in sweat, it was close to 8, and Nightwolf was mad I didn't have his breakfast ready, so he slapped me across the face. "That's how you hit a bitch," he said. "Lay off the kid, will you?" Butch said. "He was helping me." "Stay out of it, no dick," Nightwolf spat. "My bitch, not yours. I ought to fucking hit you for having him out late." Butch didn't have anything to say to that. After breakfast, we hit the road and crossed into Pennsylvania a half hour later. Hey, where are we going? I asked. None of your fucking business, Nightwolf replied. Butch just shrugged. Nowhere, I guess. Just driving. Why not? Butch was right, there's nothing left. No cities, no government, no shopping malls. It's like the Road Warrior, but with more leather. Oh, the thought scares me. I mean, it can't all be gone, right? There's got to be something left. I saw a documentary once about how the government had all these underground bunkers during the Cold War, big complexes for Congress and their families. The threat of total nuclear annihilation collapsed with the Soviet Union. Yeah, doubt they didn't have a couple of those bunkers still up and running, though. Then again, with all the politicians trapped underground, what good did that do? Everything might as well be gone. Yeah, was it in other countries? I asked. Knowing what I meant, Butch nodded. Last I heard, it was in France and Britain. Well, they could have cut Britain off, but not France. Yeah, and if it was there, it's everywhere. We lapsed into silence then. Outside, the Pennsylvania countryside was a green blur. Saw the occasional deadhead shambling toward the highway, but other than them, the world was empty. At noon, we passed the outskirts of Pittsburgh. Rising bleakly against the grey sky, looked like nothing but factories and ancient row houses. The streets were packed with the dead. They wandered aimlessly around like drunks trying to find their way home after a night at the bar. What do they do when they don't have any people to eat? They look for people to eat, Butch replied. Don't they ever stop? No, they just keep going. Hey, you two fucking get over it already, Nightwolf said. Is that jealousy I detect? Part 3. North of Pittsburgh, we got on the interstate and made 15 miles before coming to a snarl of stalled traffic. Densely forested hills flanked the highway. A few deadheads moved through the jam. Nightwolf stuck his head out of the window. Go back. I don't know how it happened, but suddenly we were surrounded. Deadheads were everywhere. I watched through the back windows as 3 guys were instantly overwhelmed. The deadheads pulled them off their bikes and started eating them. Chief Kissast hopped off his hog and reached for the shotgun he kept in the saddlebag, but a zombie came up behind him and ripped his throat out. Holy shit, Butch screamed. They were pounding on the side of the van, 1,000 dead hands thumping at ghastly tempo. Oh, fuck, Nightwolf spat. He threw the van into reverse. The back tires rolled up onto one of the overturned bikes, and we stalled. Fuck. A few of the guys farther back were fighting them. The one munching on the chief's neck took a machete to the head and went limp. Another caught a shotgun blast to the face and danced off the blacktop. The asshole with the eye patch, the one who kicked me, raised his AR-15 to his shoulder and cut down 3 zombies before taking friendly fire to the back and going down. Nightwolf was frantically gunning the gas now. He slammed the wheel and let out another fuck. The dead were hitting the hood, hissing and mewling. Nightwolf turned, his face dark. You two lead him away. What? Butch asked. Get out and lead him away. Oh, fuck that. Nightwolf pulled out his revolver and pointed it square at Butch's face. The old medic went white in the face. Lead him away or you're dead. Butch looked at me and then to Nightwolf. All right, he said. He grabbed a rifle and handed it to me. He doesn't get a gun, Nightwolf said. I have to, I started. You don't get a frickin' gun. Hand him a bat. Nodding, Butch reached into a box and brought out a heavy wooden baseball bat. Grabbing an AK for himself, Butch scooted over to the sliding door. Nightwolf was leaning over the seat, pointing his pistol. He nodded. looking like a man walking the long mile to the electric chair. Butch pulled open the door, and a dozen hands reached in. Nightwolf fired, striking one of the deadheads in the face and knocking him back. Butch then jerked the trigger, and a blast struck the crowd. Oh, I was frozen. "Get him, bitch," Nightwolf yelled. Coming alive, I lifted the bat and brought it down on one of the zombie's arms. It wasn't a very good hit, but the thing's forearm cracked. Then Butch fired again. The way was partly clear. Butch pushed his way out, and I went after. 4 of the others had retreated partly up the hill and were picking them off, while another took pot shots at the ones trying to climb the grade. The zombies from the other side of the van had joined the others now. There were 15 or 20, and they were so close now I could take 2 steps and kiss one. Butch opened up, and 3 of them went down. I swung the bat and it connected with one's head. The skull caved in and it dropped, rank cemetery fluid leaking from its shattered dome. Nightwolf was out of the van now, coming around the front and firing. I swung the bat again. My Vic's head flew off and struck the concrete. More were coming out of the woods, though. I counted another 13. "Hey, we gotta go," Butch screamed. Then, the zombie grabbed Nightwolf, and my heart leapt with hope. He punched it and knocked it down, so my dreams went down with it. Shit. I spun around. The zombie was taking a chunk out of Butch's arm. Another 3 grabbed him from behind and started dragging him back. He dropped the gun. A hand then grabbed the back of my shirt, so I drove my elbow back. The zombie's nose shattered and it fell. I went for the gun then. But I'd never held a gun before. It felt weird in my hands. Nightwolf saw me and started to swing around. So I opened fire. The gun kicked in my hands. The burst caught the front of the van, kicking up sparks. Nightwolf ducked. I spun around. The guys on the hill were dealing with a group of deadheads that had come over the hill. Closer, rank on rank, the zombies advanced. I shouldered my way through the closest one and slipped into the crowd. "Ah, you bitch," Nightwolf screamed. He squeezed off 3 shots, one of them whizzing by my head and hitting a zombie. Thank God they were spread out enough that I was able to make it through and up to the hill. Nightwolf fired 3 more times, the rounds hitting the ground in front of me, kicking up dirt. I turned and fired without aiming. The van's windshield shattered, the front tire popped, and I heard Nightwolf scream. My heart jumped then. I turned and went into the woods. I was free. July 7th, 2024. Well, freedom, like Janis Joplin said, is just another word for nothing left to lose. And boy, she was right. I'll be the first one to admit that I'm not an outdoorsman. I spent most of my youth in the house, reading and playing video games. I went hiking once with this chick I was trying to bang, and after a mile uphill, I was done. God gave me 2 hands for a reason, right? I was away from Nightwolf for an hour before the adrenaline wore off, and I realized I was in the middle of a forest, in a state I wasn't familiar with the deadheads potentially everywhere. I stopped, looked around, tried to formulate a strategy while I caught my breath. I didn't know where the hell I was, but this is America in the 21st century, and the woods have to end sometime, and probably sooner rather than later. I figured Nightwolf was probably too busy to worry about coming after me, but it would be smart to stay in the bush. The last thing I wanted was to find a highway and have the bastard come by and grab me. Didn't know what time it was. It had to be somewhere south of 4. I had to find shelter before night. As calm as could be expected, I started hiking through the undergrowth. There was a lot of boulders and fallen logs hiding in the brush. Did so much climbing I felt like a Mexican playing leapfrog with the border. Half hour after setting out, I came to a stream and took 5. I was so thirsty I drank the water without hesitation. Bear and deer shit never tasted so good. My body ached from the feet to my arms. I leaned back against a tree trunk and almost fell asleep. The only thing that kept me going over the edge was a long, low moan. I opened my eyes, my heart jumping into my throat. A zombie stumbled from a stand of bushes on the other side of the creek. It had been a man in life. He was tall, thin and bald, still wearing the rotted remains of a plaid shirt and jeans. His face looked like it had been chewed by buckshot. Bloody hole. Yeah, his face was just a bloody hole. When he saw me, he got excited and started coming at me, splashing into the water. I got to my feet and ducked around him, never taking my eyes off him. And after that, well, I just walked. I didn't see anything, didn't hear anything, well, aside from the occasional bush rustling. I jumped every time, but it was animals or something like that every time, so yeah. Still had the AK, by the way. The clip was empty, and I almost threw it away, but I held on to it because I had to find bullets eventually, you know. Before long, it started getting dark. Crickets started chirping and bullfrogs croaked. I was getting panicked, thinking I'd have to stay outside all night, but thank God I came to a clearing and saw a farmhouse off in the distance, rising up from a stand of trees. Closer, a dirt road curved to the left. A truck sat just off of it, and for a minute I thought I had a ride. When I got closer, I saw it wasn't a truck at all, just the burnt-out husk of a truck. Damn. I didn't see any zombies as I approached the house, but I did see a lot of dead bodies. Well, okay, not really dead bodies per se, but heaps of charred, burned, fucked up things that I thought were once dead bodies. The house was a 3-story clapboard affair with a green tin roof and a deep front porch. The door stood open, and in the gathering gloom I couldn't see past the threshold. Man, I did not want to go in there. But I didn't want to stay outside even more, so I forced myself in, leaving the door open behind me in case I needed to make a quick exit. Don't know what happened in that house, but it was a wreck. Furniture and pieces of wood were scattered across the floor. Pictures had been knocked off the walls and vases off tables. I tripped over something and almost kicked it. But then I saw what it was and my heart leapt. A rifle. Full of hope, I picked it up and tried to figure out how to check it for bullets. It's one of these dealies cowboys used to use. It had the cocky thing around the trigger. Slip your fingers through it when you're using it, and you pull down to chamber another round. I did that and a bullet popped out, so I figured it was loaded. I grabbed it off the floor and went off to check the rest of the house. Aside from a TV and a radio, it was pretty much empty. On the second floor, though, I found a pull string hanging from the hall ceiling. The attic. Sweet. I'd be safe up there. I found a few candles in a bedroom, so right now I'm writing by flickering firelight. There are no windows up here, so no one, or no thing, can see me. Oh, boys and girls, I think I'm home. July 9th, 2024. Yesterday I followed the dirt road to a 2-lane highway. I walked 2, maybe 3 miles in either direction, but didn't see anything other than a few walking dead. When I got back, I combed through the house from top to bottom. Found a few flashlights, some canned food, pillows and blankets, and a few jugs of water. Carried my spoils up into the attic, but didn't stay there. It was hot as fuck and I didn't feel like roasting, so I went back out and walked the property. Not much to get excited about, save for a gas pump out back. Tried to get it working, but it wouldn't, so fuck it. Back inside, I went into the basement and rooted around until I found a tabletop radio, sitting on a dusty workbench, hidden by boxes of screws and lug nuts. It felt kind of heavy, so I popped open the back, and sure enough, it did have batteries in it. I flipped it over and hit the on switch, and the soft hiss of static filled the void. Sitting on the edge of that stupid workbench, I turned the dial left and right, but got nothing. Just white noise. Dusk, I went through the house and made sure it was locked up tight. A lot of the first floor windows had been smashed out, but I took care of some of those by pushing furniture in front of them. Because it was still so hot in the attic, I opened one of the second-story windows and crouched down beside it. The night air was cool and fresh. So for a long time, I just watched the night. The sky was wide and clear, and the moon shone big and bright. Well, it's funny, I thought, how life works. 2 months ago, I was looking at spending my entire life in prison. Now that shithole's a distant memory, and I'm free. Well, as free as you can get out here. Not gonna lie, though. Kind of miss prison. There you were safe, relatively. Had food and peace of mind, you know. I have food, yeah, but since all this started, I haven't had safety or peace of mind. Well, at least I'm free, right? Nothing left to lose. Part 4. July 13th, 2024. I walked 5 miles west along the highway and came to a small town. It was really more of a, don't know what the word is, spot in the road, I guess. 5 buildings on either side of the pavement. A church, a post office/general store. 3 houses. An American flag flapped lazily on a pole in front of the post office. Well, if I knew how to sew, I'd have taken it and made a pair of shorts out of it. I'm still in my orange prison pants. In the general store, I took a red plastic basket and filled it up with canned goods and hot soda from a dead freezer along the back wall. When I was done, I hopped over the counter and looked for anything useful. Boy, did I find it. I think it's a Colt, though I don't know. It's a revolver, at least. Black with a cherry wood handle. It's fully loaded, plus I found a box of bullets. Really sweet, right? Yeah, I stuck the box into the basket and tucked the gun into my waistband. I was just climbing over the counter when I heard something. Kind of like a growl. When I realized what it was, though, my heart froze. 2 seconds later, through the plate glass window, I saw it. 3 motorcycles coming to a rolling stop. 2 of them boasted 2 guys apiece. The third was driven by a lone wolf. A night wolf. Oh, fuck. I grabbed my basket and ducked behind the counter. 2 minutes later, the bell over the door rang and the assholes came in. "Grab anything we can use," Nightwolf said. His cronies went about pillaging the place. They weren't nice about it either. I heard shit crashing and thumping. It sounded like they were tearing it apart. Fucking dicks. "Hey, find any alcohol?" Nightwolf asked. "Nah," someone said. "I got some peroxide." "God, my freaking arm's killing me." "Oh, did I hit you with my AK blast?" "Good, you prick." "No, check behind the counter." My heart jumped. Not good. Whoever Nightwolf had spoken to started my way. His footsteps were loud on the plank floor. Silently cursing, I pulled out the revolver and turned. Before he appeared, however, a loud crash rang out, and one of the other guys screamed. "Ah, shit," Nightwolf hissed. Counter guy said something and clunked off in the other direction. The other guy was still screaming. "Hey, you got Dave," someone said. "Oh, fuck him," Nightwolf replied. "Oh, let's go." I held my breath as they departed. A few moments later, their bikes roared into life. But I waited a long time to come out. When I did, I saw what had become of Dave. He was lying in the middle of the floor, his throat ripped open, blood everywhere. Next to him, curled up like a dead spider, was the dead head. The blood was still pumping from Dave's neck. His face was white and drawn. He opened his eyes and looked at me. I recognized him. Well, he never really messed with me, but I remember him making comments about me being a bitch and shit. Hey, Dick. Remember me? He blinked, tried to speak, but it came out a gurgle. Did they leave you behind, Dave, huh? I sat my basket down and knelt beside him. That's fucked up. Maybe it was fate. Maybe a coincidence. Something caught my eye. Sunlight glinting on steel. Tools hung from the side wall. Hammers, shovels, glowing as if touched by God. A handheld garden trowel. And I smiled. Geez, the least they could have done was put you out of your misery, I said, getting up. I went over to the trowel and picked it up. Lucky I was here. I knelt beside him again, making sure he saw it. His eyes went wide. Yeah, I'm a good bitch after all. I raised it up, brought it down onto his groin with all my might. It sank into him and he jerked, almost sat up, shaking and gurgling. Blood flew from his mouth. I yanked it out and stabbed him in the stomach next. I ripped it out again, roughly, and a long piece of intestine came with it. He was limp now, dead or near it. Grabbed hold of his guts and pulled. I ripped it off in my hands, slimy and warm. Something had come over me. Rage, fury, whatever you want to call it. By the time I was done, panting and out of breath, I'd stabbed the bastard 30 or 40 times. The trowel jutted from his ruined throat. I got to my feet and kicked him for good measure, and his head separated from his body. Who's the bitch now, huh? Almost as if hearing me, his eyes flew open. The dead head, literally. I kicked his dome into a corner and left. Fuck him. July 14th, 2024. I found a car. Since I'd gone in one direction yesterday, I decided today to go in the other. 3 miles brought me to the outskirts of a place called Evansville. Medium-sized place, lots of zombies. Anyway, one of the first buildings in town was a grocery store. It looked looted. There were 3 cars in the parking lot. I checked them all. One didn't have keys, the other had a flat tire. But the third worked great. And it's a cop car. When I first saw it, I got excited. Cops have all sorts of shit in their cars. Found a shotgun, extra rounds, some riot gear, a rifle, and some other stuff I can't think of off the top of my head. I was going to load it all into one of the other cars, but they didn't work, like I said. So I tried the cruiser and it started like a dream. Drove it back to the house and parked it against the front stairs. So if I have to, I can get in fast. Oh, and I picked up some maps from a little gas station. About 25 miles north of Pittsburgh. I really like being so close, so maybe I'll go further north. Top of Pennsylvania looks pretty rural. July 16th, 2024. There were 5 zombies in the front yard when I woke up today. I picked them off from a second-story window. I don't mean to brag, but I think I'm getting to be a pretty good shot. After I dragged them into the woods, I took Connie the cop car. Yeah, I named her. She's my bitch. I took her for a little spin. She only had a half tank of gas, so I stopped back at the grocery store from the other day and lifted a gas can and a garden hose. Long story short, I siphoned gas from those asshole cars that didn't work. Flats and no keys. Yeah, fuck that. July 19th, 2024. I packed Connie and left this morning. I was sad, you know. I kind of started to think of that farmhouse as my own. Too many damn zombies, though. The last couple days I was killing them left and right. I was afraid if I stayed I'd eventually get trapped. They're starting to filter out of the cities now. For the first hour or so, I followed Highway 10 north. A couple of times I had to drive around stalled traffic. Next, I took US 15 east, then angled down onto Route 5. I'm in a little town in Maryland right now. I don't know the name of it, but it's on a big lake. A couple of miles down is a big amusement park. Well, not really an amusement park with rides, but I did see a go-kart track and a bunch of signs for an indoor arcade. I don't really know where I want to go. I was thinking of going back to the prison. I mean, like Billy Sutherland said long ago, has food, walls, medicine, and guns. Richmond's only an hour and a half away, though. If I'm right about the deadheads spreading out from the cities, they'll eventually surround the place. With just me in there, I should have enough to hold out for a while, but not forever. I'm eventually going to need to go shopping. Don't have many other options, though. Yep, rock and a hard place. July 21st, 2024. I crossed into Western Virginia on Route 16 early yesterday morning. The I-81 corridor seemed to have been spared the worst of the rising. The roads were clear and none of the towns looked ransacked. Lots of farms. A couple of times I saw smoke curling from distant chimneys. I wonder how many people are holding up in their houses. I doubt there are many in big cities and towns, but out here in the mountains, I bet there could be a lot. Anyway, by mid-afternoon, I was on US 29, minding my own business when, rounding a bend, I saw 3 motorcycles up ahead. My heart seized. I didn't know if it was Nightwolf and his butt buddies or not. I mean, they're not the only assholes who can drive motorcycles, you know. I was too far away. So, I hit the gas. There were 2 guys on one bike and 1 guy each on the remaining 2. The guy in the lead was wearing a denim jacket. His dull brown hair fluttered behind him. I still didn't know for sure if it was them. But I didn't care. They didn't hear me coming over the roar of their engines. So I flipped on the siren. Yeah, they heard that. The passenger on the rear bike looked back. Yeah, he was familiar. I hit the gas and rocketed forward. The guy opened his mouth to scream, but didn't have the chance. I hit the back of the motorcycle and it shuddered, spun right and flipped, spilling the 2 bastards onto the pavement. Oh, I saw the driver flip head over feet along the highway. It was wild. Whoever was on the next bike saw the whole thing and punched the gas, weaving into the other lane and getting the attention of the others. Going close to 90, I smashed into him. He hit the windshield, cracked it, and rolled off. I was having a blast. Nightwolf was pulling ahead and glancing over his shoulder. His buddy did the same. Reaching over to the passenger seat, I grabbed the revolver and shot the window out. Nightwolf's little friend was zigzagging all over the road now. Couldn't get a bead on him, so I just fired. Well, one of the rounds struck him in the shoulder. He lost control of the bike. While it skidded along the pavement, he flew over the guardrail and disappeared into a strand of forest. Now, it's just me and Nightwolf. He was going over 100, and I kept pace with him. Took the CB off the dash, flipped the switch marked PA. I'd used it before, just goofing around, and depressed the talk button. Pull over to the side of the road, I said. Your bitch wants to talk. At that, he threw a glance back. Though he was a good 30 feet ahead, I could see the horror on his face. I dropped the handset into my lap, grabbed the gun, and started shooting. Once, twice. The rounds went wild. Oh, fuck. I punched the gas again, and the car surged forward. Nightwolf looked back and throttled his bike. He wasn't quick enough. I rammed him, and the bike went down. Oh, he tumbled along the asphalt like an acrobat. It really was quite impressive. He came to a rest underneath a green road sign. I parked behind him and got out, grabbing the shotgun. I'll tell you what, that son of a bitch was tough. All cut up and road rashed, he was trying to get to his feet when I kicked him in the back. Grunting, he fell to the dirt and rolled. So I kicked him again. Hey, miss me? He was on his hands and knees now, panting. I kicked him again, and he went down with an oomph. I raised the shotgun like a club and brought it down on the back of his head with a sickening crack. He jerked and went limp. I was breathing heavily. It's time you got a taste of your own medicine, I panted, pulling off my pants. When I was done, I screamed in primal dominance. Nightwolf was groaning, stirring. You up, bitch? I asked. He moaned. How did it feel then? Fuck you, he muttered. Fuck you, literally. I pressed the barrel of the shotgun against the small of his back and pulled the trigger. August 2nd, 2024. South Shawshank State Prison sits several miles from I-81, surrounded by forests and hills. Driving up on it yesterday morning, with its turrets, guard towers, and high fences, I felt like coming home. I closed the main gate behind me and picked off the dozen or so zombies wandering the yard. Drove up the access road to the staff parking lot behind A-Wing. First, I visited the admin office and found a ring of keys. Though most of the doors in SS were electronic, they still had some old locks as backup. Next, I went back to my old block. There were zombies in 3 of the cells. One was Jimmy Murrow, who was a friend of mine. Well, I shot them all and dragged them over to A block, along with Quincy and Billy Sutherland. After that, I went to the cafeteria and stocked up on canned food. Now, I'm sitting in my old cell, looking out of the window at the main gate. There are buses parked near the gym. Might use one to block the gate so no one can come in. I kind of wish the others were alive so we could have someone to always be in one of the guard towers. Oh well, don't mind being alone. Really, I'm not actually alone. No. Nightwolf's zombified head is here. His eyes are no longer empty. They're filled with hate. Somewhere in that dead head brain of his, he remembers. He remembers me, remembers what I did to him. Can he feel himself rotting? I hope so. I really hope so. That was a really messed up but really satisfying second installment of this series. It does feel like there's a long way to go though, doesn't there? Back to where it all started. Seems just about right, doesn't it? Well, thoughts, feelings, anything you want to say in the comment section below the video, and as usual, I'll do my best to join in the conversation. Well, that is it for your midweek's entertainment. Of course, I'll be back again with a podcast on my other channel tomorrow night. Probably something here either on Saturday or Friday. Let's see how it goes. Till then, my dear friends, very, very sweet dreams, and bye-bye. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this story today. Really means a lot to me and to the author of the story, of course. Well, if you want to know more about me, I'm pretty much everywhere on social media. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can download my music on SoundCloud. I've got a Patreon if you feel like. Throw me $1 or $2. Very much appreciated. And of course, on Reddit, I have a place where you can leave stories if you want me to read one that you've written. Well, hoping to see you all again very soon. Till then, sweet dreams. Bye-bye.